Welcome to First Congregational United Church of Christ. I am Wes Bixby, the senior pastor here, and on behalf of the whole congregation, we are honored to once again be hosting the Brady Vigil. And while we prefer not to have to hold this vigil year after year, we know that this is an important event. And so thank you for coming out. Thank you to those who are watching on Zoom, and know that we're also recording. And so you can share this with other family and friends because it is important. It's important to remember those who have been lost to gun violence, those who have been victims to gun violence. This is an important evening to lean into one another, to listen, to recommit ourselves to the ongoing work that needs to be done in the face of gun violence that is too rampant in our communities. And so it is with full hearts that we enter in tonight. It is with an open spirit that we come. I encourage you to enter in tonight with tenderness. Enter in with the rawness. Enter in with honesty. And enter in remembering, acknowledging that we are not alone. We're a community here tonight to support one another in the ongoing work that needs to happen here and now. And so I invite you, with all of that, to breathe in and slowly exhale and open your whole self to this vigil tonight.
Good evening. Just over 10 years ago, Daniel Barden joined the rest of his very large extended family to celebrate his great-grandfather's 90th birthday. Papa sat in a seat of honor and watched as Daniel, his dad Mark, his older siblings, James and Natalie, they weren't even teenagers yet, played their various instruments and serenaded him with Louis Armstrong's "It's a Wonderful World." Daniel, who had recently turned 7, kept the beat with his drums, smiling all the while. Several weeks ago, the family gathered again, this time for Papa's 100th birthday. 80 people attended. Big outdoor party, lots of masks. And Papa seemed as hearty as ever. But this time Daniel wasn't there. Just weeks after he and his family had sung to Papa that day in 2012, Daniel was killed in his classroom at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Vigils such as ours today are held in December around the country to remember the 26 children and staff members who died that day. And they've expanded through the years to pay tribute to all forms of gun violence. Here in Florida, we especially remember the 49 slain at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando in 2016, and the 17 mostly teenagers at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, not 2 years later. This year, our hearts are heavy over the killings at a supermarket in a largely Black community in Buffalo. Football players on a bus, University of Virginia. Workers at a Walmart in Virginia. And of course, members of the LGBTQ community enjoying an evening out with friends at a Colorado Springs club. Those shootings all made the news, as they should. But remember, 45,000 people have died in gun violence of one form or another in this country since we gathered in this very sanctuary for last year's vigil. We want change from our leaders. We need a safer country. And we work toward that every day. Brady, Sarasota, people here, we work toward that. Tonight, though, is about remembering. Tonight, we remember the people who have died and the people who are left behind. We will now light candles for the victims of all gun violence.
Good evening. We begin tonight by remembering 26 people who died in a horrific shooting 10 years ago next week. 20 were children between the ages of 6 and 7 who today would be midway through high school. The others were teachers and other staff members. We light our first candle for those who were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Mass shootings have occurred in malls and office buildings, places of worship and concert venues, bars and homes, and of course, schools. Uvalde, Buffalo, Colorado Springs, Chesapeake, Virginia, the University of Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, Memphis, Highland Park, and so many more. We light our second candle for all of the victims of those crimes. Suicides account for 60% of all gun deaths. They may be veterans suffering from PTSD, depressed teens acting on impulse, people with problems they see as insurmountable. We light a candle for them. Every 16 hours, someone in America, usually a woman, is shot and killed by a current or former partner. We light a candle for the victims of domestic violence. 4.6 million American children live in homes with at least one loaded and unlocked gun. According to a 2021 study, later we will hear one family's story. We light this candle for Ethan's song and the other victims of unintentional shootings. Armed robberies create an illusion of impending death, regardless of whether you were shot. Some victims die, some live on in a lifelong terror. We light a candle for them. Police have shot and killed 1,091 people in the past year. A disproportionate number were Black and brown. In addition, civilians shot 281 officers, about a fifth of them fatally. We light a candle for the victims of unjustified shootings by police and for the police officers who were shot. Many people die in incidents that never make the news. We light a candle for the victims of street violence. The number of domestic terror plots and attacks are at the highest level in decades, according to a nonpartisan security experts. Many are the work of white supremacists. We light a candle for the victim of domestic terrorism. Giffords reports that there are roughly 10,000 hate crimes involving guns each year. They were shot because of someone's real or perceived race, color, religion, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender or disability, and we now light a candle for those victims. We light the final candle for those who suffer lifelong effects from being wounded by gunfire, and for those who face a lifetime of grieving for someone they lost and loved. Thank you.
Last year, in this very sanctuary, Mindy Simmons provided music, and I'm thinking about her. She passed away suddenly, but her spirit is here. Our journey. We're going on a journey to let everyone know we're lined up along the highways. We're going around the mountains, marching over the bridges, trudging through the waters, searching for the light at the end of tunnels. We're on our way. We've got to get there. We can't let violence stop us. We're striving towards a better world. We know how it should be. Lock arms tight. Step together. Move forward on our journey. Make it happen. Plan it. Vote on it. Insist on it. Feel it. Push for it. Shout it out. Demand it. Together we'll walk, run, continue on our journey to end gun violence.
Thank you, Priscilla. I have met a lot of gun safety activists over the years, many with Brady and some in other organizations. I know some in person, know a lot of them online, and every once in a while, one of them really stands out. Kristen Song is one of those people. She became an activist after her son Ethan was killed with an unsecured gun in his friend's house. Ethan was 15. Kristen began to work for better laws in Connecticut and later the nation, working tirelessly to get Congress to pass Ethan's law, which requires guns to be secured if a child or an unauthorized person can gain access. Connecticut passed the law. The US House passed the law earlier this year. Now it's time for the Senate to act. Call your senators. As if that work isn't enough, Kristen and her husband Mike opened a nonprofit animal sanctuary called Song Strong to honor their son, who regularly loved and fostered cats and dogs in his young life. Kristen returned to her home in Guilford, Connecticut a short time ago, a couple hours ago maybe at the most, after attending the Newtown Action Alliance's National Vigil for Victims in Washington, and I suspect she did a little lobbying while she was there. We so appreciate her agreeing to join us from her home in Guilford, Connecticut tonight. Please welcome Kristen Song.
Hi there. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I'm actually in Boston with my children and I'm having some internet. So can someone just wave to me and let me know if you can hear me? Okay, great. Thank you so much. I saw a woman last year. Her eyes had a sparkle. Her posture was relaxed. Her movements were deliberate and full of energy. She smiled, laughed, and loved to tell anyone who would listen. Seize the day. She lived her life that way. She begged for a third child. Her husband did not understand at first that she was not done bringing life into this world. Her third child was born on a beautiful winter day. Her family was complete. She felt at peace. She used to tell people her heart grew 3 sizes that day. The pleasures in her life were her family. Her greatest joys were her children. She used to sit back and just watch them and smile to herself. Ah, life is good. Her heart was full of gratitude because she knew she was blessed. She was a confident mother. She took her job as a mother seriously and worked hard on making sure her 3 children felt loved and cherished. Her most treasured moments were when her family were all together, at dinner time, vacation, or trapped in the car together. She loved the noise, but she also loved when the house was quiet at night and her children were all tucked in their beds. They were safe. She did her job. Her children grew into teenagers and she fell more in love with them. They were becoming offshoots of her, and she marveled at their personalities, their dreams, kindness, and yes, their grumpiness. She told them over and over, there is nothing this family can't get through together. I saw a woman on January 31st, 2018. It was such a beautiful day. She and her son had such a fun and relaxing morning together. You see, he had just gotten his braces off and he was so happy. She took a picture of him with his new smile and sent it to his dad. This called for a celebration, off to breakfast. They had such a great conversation and he was so upbeat. Her beautiful boy told her about his dreams, his hopes, and his plans for the future. He wanted to go to Rice University, go into the military, marry, and have 7 children. He wanted his house to be filled with music and laughter, like his home was now. They returned home and the boy asked if he could go to his neighborhood friend's house. He walked out of his home and out of his family's lives. The woman saw 2 police officers walking across her lawn. Her heart sank. The officers came into the house and the second officer could not look at the woman. That made her worry. He told her that her beautiful boy was in an ambulance headed to Yale New Haven Children's Hospital and she needed to get there quickly. She was so confused. She was in a slow panic. She called her husband and it went to voicemail. She then texted him 911, something she had never done before. In the car, the couple made a commitment that they will handle anything: blindness, loss of limb, paraplegic, having to care for their beautiful boy the rest of his life. They were a team and could handle anything. When they got to the hospital, they walked in and it was like the parting of the Red Sea. They all knew. They were surrounded by a bunch of people they didn't know and escorted into a tiny room. The ER doctor came in and the smallest voice said, "I am so sorry, your beautiful boy is gone." She crawled into a fetal position on the floor and prayed to God that the floor would open and swallow her. Her husband called their other son and daughter. The sounds that came out of their mouths were raw, guttural sobs, a sound she will never forget. She wasn't brave enough to make those phone calls. How could she say it out loud? The woman needed to see her beautiful boy, to let him know that he is loved and cherished, to kiss his forehead, to tuck him in one last time. She was not allowed to say goodbye. Her son was unrecognizable. They would not let her. While the family was walking out of the hospital, their beautiful boy was being wheeled to the morgue. I see a woman. Her eyes are dull, her posture slumped, her movement as if by rote. She is in a stupor, getting through the days, but numb of heart, mind, and soul. Her smile has turned to tears. Her energy is gone. She wonders how she will get through the day. The physical pain is so intense, it is hard for her to breathe. The things that used to bring her pleasure and great joy are chased away to the furthest part of her mind. They are terrifying reminders of what used to be. She no longer thinks about vacations, summer evenings under the stars, or Christmas mornings. All these pleasures have been sacrificed just to survive. Life is a roller coaster of emotions ranging from panic attacks, anxiety over what will happen to her other children, and disbelief that her life is now shattered into a million pieces. She doesn't sleep much, and when she does, he visits her at night, calling to her. She frantically runs around like a caged animal trying to get to her beautiful boy, but he slips through her fingers and slowly fades away. A noise wakes her up and she realizes she is sobbing and wailing, "Why, God? Please tell me why, my beautiful boy." She would have happily traded places with him in an instant. She is caught between 2 worlds, the one her beautiful boy is in now and the one her living family is in. She stretches her arms but can't hold all of her children at once. She gets up dreading another day without her son. She has failed as a mother. She sits with her coffee in the kitchen and contemplates suicide. Ah, that sounds lovely. No more pain. Her other son grabs her hand and says, "I would not survive if I lost another member of this family." How did he know? Was it that obvious? She now knows she has no other choice but to live. The once vibrant, happy, optimistic, warm, and loving woman finds it necessary to withdraw into herself to protect her emotional stability. She isolates herself. It has affected more than just her. It has affected her prized possessions, her husband, and her children. Not only is she dealing with her own heartache, she's also trying to help them deal with their heartache. This was a piece I wrote about a month after Ethan was killed. I couldn't believe the change in me. I didn't even recognize me, but I would get to know the new me very well. One day I sat in my cold kitchen watching my older son, Evan, pack up his backpack for school. He was a senior in high school. Ethan had been a freshman. My God, there used to be 2 boys, and now there will only be just 1. I remember thinking, Ethan is never coming back. I will never see him, hear him, hold him again. At that moment, I knew I was going to not make it. The pain was too intense, and suicide seemed to be a good option. I got lucky that day. I didn't have access to a gun. My family had a chance to save me. That is why it is so important to store your guns. I've spoken to too many mothers whose children have died by suicide with the family's unsecured guns. For those directly impacted by gun violence, our stories may not be the same, but I bet our pain is. We are the unlucky ones, but I'm here tonight to tell you there is hope. We have lived through the unimaginable, and we are still standing. You are strong. You may not see the fighter in you, but I do. You are not alone in this journey. I am your family now, and you are mine. On the day we buried Ethan, my husband, Mike, my daughter, Emily, and my son, Evan, and I made a pact. We would get up every day and honor Ethan. So I went out and I bought some chalkboard paint and painted a wall in my office and wrote down 50 ways I would honor my beautiful boy. Simple goals at first: take a shower, eat, breathe, stop self-medicating, exercise, and then to harder goals: pass a law in Connecticut requiring safe storage of firearms, start a statewide gun buyback and safe giveaway, lay 1,000 wreaths on our town's veteran graves at Christmas time. I accomplished my first 50 goals and have 50 new ways to honor Ethan, one of which is to pass a federal version of Ethan's law. We were successful in passing Ethan's law in Connecticut in May of 2019. It passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, and the House of Representatives June in 2022. On the federal level, I personally met with every Democrat and independent and over 120 Republicans in the House. There were days I had 10 Zoom meetings and times in DC when my feet were swollen from walking from office to office. I would fall into bed emotionally exhausted and ask Ethan for strength. I'm now working hard and gaining co-sponsors in the Senate. I have met with every Democrat and independent and about 20 Republicans. I'm also working with 5 states to pass Ethan's law. I know the road will be long. There may be days when I can't get up, not all the way. Some days the best I can do is crawl and take just an inch, but I will always take that inch every time, because the next day I will take a knee, then a foot, and then I will be standing. I was down in DC this week, planning on attending the vigil, and had 16 meetings set up with senators. By Tuesday night, I was in such excruciating pain, I had to return home. You see, I'm good at managing my stress during the day, but when sleep finally comes, I take my stress out on my teeth. My dentist pleaded with me to slow down. I don't think slowing down is in the cards for me, not while there are so many children dying because of unsecured guns. I take each one of their deaths personally. It is also what drives me forward. I did promise my dentist I would wear a night guard. There will be a day for rest, but it will not be this day. Rest will come when there is a cultural shift in this country, when locking up your guns so children can't gain access to them becomes second nature to all gun owners. I want to thank you all for your support in this movement. I stand on your shoulders. You lift me up on days I fear I can do no more. I hope my words motivate you to keep going, even when you are weary. There is so much to be done. Please encourage those not involved to come off the sidelines, stop wringing their hands and lamenting that nothing will change. You see, we are the change. You are all powerful. Even one person, a small group of people, can be the difference. I have seen it. As long as there still is good in this world, isn't it worth fighting for? Do not become discouraged when you face obstacles. Find a way around. Never give up. In the quiet of the night, ask yourself, am I living a life well lived? Have I honored my loved one? Am I part of the solution? Did I get back up one more time than I got knocked down? Did I stay the course in the face of the storm, in the face of those who place guns ahead of children? If your answer is yes, then there is hope. Remember, We are on the right side of history, and we are on the right side of God. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Lots of remembering going on. Lots of words have been spoken about remembering so many people, people we don't even know. The song the chorus will sing tonight is called Remember My Song. It was written by Sally Albrecht and her husband Jay Althouse, and it was dedicated to Daniel Pearl. I'm sure many of you remember who Daniel Pearl was. He was a young journalist with the Wall Street Journal who was kidnapped by Islamic terrorists, and he was killed. And tonight we sing this song that we really tie together, and I thank Carol for this because we had talked about this. We both loved this particular piece of music and thought that it would just draw us all together as one. So as the choir takes their places, we will be singing Remember My Song. Thank you.
Centuries ago, the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to the people who were living in Rome, a place that was known for its unrest, the fear that hovered in the air, the uncertainty, the volatility of it all. And Paul wrote to the people there and shined a light on all that they were carrying with them, the suffering and the struggle, the stress and the strain. And in the middle of that letter, Paul asks this question: what then are we to say about these things? We can ask that same question tonight. What do we say about 10 years of needing to host vigils? What do we say about shootings that continue to happen from Buffalo to Virginia to Colorado? What do we say about the hurt that remains from the tragedies here in Florida, from the 49 killed at the Pulse nightclub to the 17 killed in Parkland, Florida? What do you say about 45,000 people this year, victims of gun violence? What do you say to those who are unnamed and unknown, the suicides, the domestic violence, the hate crimes, these candles that are lit before us? Most of all, tonight, I wonder, what would I say to Daniel's family and to Ethan's family? What do we say when our hearts ache and our souls break? Well, perhaps we begin by saying enough. Perhaps we begin by, perhaps we say that we're going to continue to stand together. Perhaps we recommit as we're remembering tonight. And I want to reassure you that there will be a time to speak to our representatives, to vote, to call our senators to get Ethan's law passed nationally. And there will be a time to gather on Thursdays at the Bayfront, and I know that Carol will give you the information about that, and that the Brady group here in Sarasota would love to have you join with them. And there will be work ahead for all of us. But tonight, let's not lose sight of the fact that we're pausing to remember, to reground ourselves, to hold this moment. And so I want to teach you a prayer posture, something that when the road is long and the journey does get hard, that Priscilla's poem pointed toward, when we're feeling those feelings that Kristen so beautifully described to us, that heartbreak and soul ache, that this can be a posture you return to. And so I want to encourage you, if you would please, to take your right hand and form a fist. This is a remembrance of the frustration, fear, tension, but this fist is also our determination. It represents what's on our heart and our commitment to remember. And I want you to take that fist now and put it on your heart. And I want you to take your left hand, form a cup. This cup represents strength. It represents hope. It represents our commitment to continue the journey, to change, to work for change, and to be the good. And now take that left hand and place it over the fist. And be with me now in a minute of silent remembrance for all the families in whose honor we gather. It is my deep hope that what you have witnessed, what you have felt, what you have experienced here tonight will continue to stir deep within you. And on behalf of everyone in this community, I want to thank Carol and all the members of the Brady chapter here in Sarasota for the work that is being done, for the fight that is being fought, for the determination, for the courage, for the strength. And I pray, it is my deep prayer, that all members of Brady and this whole community will continue to band together to work to end gun violence in this country and around the world. Carol, would you please come up and join us? Close us.
As Wes said, so much work is being done. I think of the Bardens, Mark and Jackie. Mark and another Sandy Hook mom started Sandy Hook Promise, which goes around the United States and teaches school children how to be kind to each other, how to know when something is wrong with someone else and know who to talk to, where to go. And I think of the Songs, who have done so much in Ethan's name. And they got into it very quickly, very quickly. So many people like that. I think in our own community, Tom Edwards, our school board member back there, who has worked for safety in the schools, who wants to make sure that what we can do, we do. There are so many people doing things quietly that we're not even aware of. And that's really pretty special. That's pretty special. So tonight, I thank all of them, of course, and there are so many others to thank. Kristen Song, who shares her family's grief to spare other families this pain. Look for her on her website, songstrong.org. Lynn Woodman, whose musical talents have graced us beyond grace. Jane Hunter and her singers for raising their voices. Remember their song, and it's a tough one to get through. I would also like to ask, it was mentioned earlier, that we remember Mindy Simmons, who was our musical accompanist for several of these vigils, including online during COVID. Who could do that? She is missed. Lindsay Huddleston, our liturgical dancer, who created this piece for us tonight. David Siegwald, our narrator, and Henrietta Wiley, our lighter of candles. Never an easy thing to make those things work. Priscilla Crummell for yet another masterful poem. Gina Bixby, our Zoom master extraordinaire back there. And Pastor Wes Bixby for his reflections and his constant support through the years, and for this congregation, which has embraced our Brady efforts again and again and again. Kyle Booth and Stacy Arthur, who greeted you on your way in back there, we thank them. We hope they were able to get in and see some of this. And Nancy Goethe also back there with our various sign-up sheets and so on. There is literature back there if you would take it. One of the things that's back there is a brochure about ending family fire, locking up guns in your home, and give it to someone who owns a gun. If not you, somebody. Diana Ravello, who designed our vigil invitation. She's a new person who jumped in and helped. And the irreplaceable Jim Crummell, I'd make him stand up, but he'd be embarrassed, but he could if he'd like, who organized not only this, our 6th vigil, but all of those that went before. I cannot thank you enough. So yes, thank you. During these times that are not always easy, and Kristen remarked on this, for so many of us in so many ways, we thank all of you for your support too. I know there were some people who were going to be here tonight and they're home with the flu, so we're hoping that everybody starts to get healthier and we get through these holidays. So I would ask you now to please stand, if you can, if you'd like, and join hands if you'd like, if you feel comfortable doing that right now, and join us, join Lynn in singing We Shall Overcome. And we can ask our musicians to turn around if they'd like.